Well, I'd like to welcome everyone to the webinar on Ohio Senate Bill 220, the Data Protection Act. Thank you for attending. My name is Alan Perk. I'm the CEO of XLN Systems, and I'll be your guide throughout the webinar. I'm a small business advocate, and I've been in IT for 40 years. I got to tell you something. Security has always been in the back of my mind and the back of what I wanted to share with others. I sit on the following boards. I sit on the Franklin University Center for Public Safety and Cybersecurity Awareness. I'm a board member of the Cyber Ohio, that's with the Attorney General. And for the small businesses, sit on the board for the National Federation of Independent Business. This is a slide I want to thank my lawyer Lou on. This presentation is for your information only and may contain comments not related to Senate Bill 220, Franklin University, Cyber Ohio, or the NFIB. However, all comments are attributed to XLN Systems. Like many presentations, you should follow up with your own research to determine what is and what is not pertinent for you and your business. All right. The Ohio Senate Bill 220, called the Data Protection Act. What is it? Well, it provides a legal safe harbor to covered entities that implement a specified cybersecurity program. The bill also allows the transactions recorded by blockchain technology under the Uniform Electronic Transaction Act. That's a first for here in Ohio. The bill also alters the definition of the key employee under the casino gaming law. Now, this Ohio Data Protection Act was signed into law by the governor this past August 2018. Today, we will just focus on how it relates to small business. So we may not talk about the blockchain part nor the altering of definition of a key employee. So some of the legal details. The Ohio Data Protection Act applies only to tort claims made against a business for negligence or invasion of privacy. It requires the business to plead a safe harbor and an affirmative defense. The business still would have the burden of establishing that its cybersecurity program reasonably conform with the chosen security framework. In other words, the Data Protection Act is trying to help small businesses improve their cybersecurity defenses. And if they do, they could be given an affirmative defense, that's a legal term, in case their business is taken to court. Now, the bill does not provide a business with a blanket immunity. Oftentimes, we've heard about safe harbor. You'll hear that with other individuals surrounding this bill. It's not the case. The safe harbor is a legal term. This is not, for this law, safe harbor does not apply. It also does not apply to a contract-based claims, such as those that could have arisen from a business vendor dispute or between a business and its customers. For example, when you and I have a credit card, we're signing a contract. That contract does not apply to the Data Protection Act. All right. As I said before, this act is more of an incentive. Throughout the country, there are 14 other states that have a similar act such as this. Those acts are mandated. Here in Ohio, we believe more of the carrot and stick. We want to provide an incentive to businesses and small government agencies to implement an industry security standard through voluntary action. If so, then that entity must reasonably conform to the standard to obtain the affirmative defense. Now, some examples of industry standard that we want the business to conform to are the NIST 800-171 standards, the HIPAA standards, Gramm-Leach-Bliley, GOB, or PCI. So which standard are we talking about? I know they sound pretty complicated. Well, it's whatever the standard that you choose should conform to the size and scope of your business. So each one is a little different. So for example, a manufacturing plant probably does not need to conform to the HIPAA standards. Well, why? Let's go on. Why did someone think that it's important for small businesses to improve their cybersecurity? Well, I'll tell you what, there's 28 million of them in the United States. And generally, for a small business owner, cybersecurity is not a high priority. The owners wear multiple hats. And a lot of times, we're a small business at Excellent Systems. I know a lot of small businesses. They're focused on making payroll and their next project. The owners just simply don't know what they don't know. But one thing that I know, cyber pirates have their eyes on small business owners right now. So going forward, let's just concentrate on the NIST 800-171 standards. NIST stands for the National Institute of Standards and Technology. So, in order to comply with the NIST 171 standards, generally you'll follow these 5 major steps. We will perform a series of non-technical components. We'll complete several technical checks and modifications. We'll talk about employee training. This is important. We'll develop an overall cybersecurity plan. And we'll follow up with any updates or revisions to the standard. So, step 1. Let's perform a series of non-technical components. So, I've often been asked, is this a checklist? Well, I'd hate to refer to it as a checklist, but it really is. So, for example, there's about 35 things we need to do to conform to the standard. Here's one of them. Simply identify who has access to your confidential data. Now, it might be simply yourself or your executive secretary. If it's a family business, it could be your wife or daughter or your son. But we have to identify who has access and to what. Here's the next one. We require individual computer accounts for each employee. Well, that makes sense, doesn't it? We don't want to have, let's say we have John and Sally as our employees. If they use the same account, then we wouldn't know if John made a transaction or if Sally made the transaction. Having separate accounts gives us that capability. Here's one. Create or update an employee manual. And I got to tell you something. I know a lot of small businesses. I'm on the board for the National Independent, NFIB, National Federation for Independent Business. I got to tell you something. 85% of small businesses in Ohio do not have an employee manual. They need to have one. Here's one. Install surge protections. But you would think that that's a given. Well, it isn't all the time. Here's one. Properly dispose of old computers, storage devices, and digital files, including copy machines and printers. Did you know that a lot of copy machines and printers have an electronic hard drive which simply means that every time you send a file to be printed on that printer, it's actually recorded on that hard drive. If you give it away or don't properly destroy it, all those copies, and we're talking tens of thousands of copies, are on that hard drive. Some of those most likely have personal information on them. We need to dispose of that properly. And as I said earlier, a cyber defense plan. Protect, respond, recover. The three major items in a cyber plan. Again, part of the non-technical components, simply use file cabinets with a lock and key. Very important. It's just one more method to protect the data, right? If your file cabinet's left unopened, maybe you're gone for a day or an hour, who knows what can happen. Have and utilize paper shredders. Conduct online business more securely. What I mean by that is, there's nothing wrong with an online checking account for the business. The problem is, sometimes that checking account can be stolen. The numbers could be stolen and the money could be taken out of it. A lot of people, today, a lot of the online accounts are really more secure than ever. And also, you as a business owner can have text messages. So any transaction that would involve that account, a text message could be sent to you, whether money coming in or money going out. So you can keep a better eye on it. Here's some technical checks and modifications that we have to go through in order to achieve conformity. Utilize automatic patching of your operating system and software. A lot of times now, this can be more automated than before, but you may have to get an IT guy to help out or a security guy. Activate and configure a firewall on your internal network. Change the username and password from its default. Now, I know a lot of small businesses will go to Micro Center or something like that, Staples, and they'll buy a router. And they'll think, look, I've got a router and a firewall. It's already set up. Here's the problem. That router comes with a default password. And the default username is most likely admin. Well, believe me, all the hackers know about the default password. So we want you to change that right away. If you don't know how to change it, ask for help. Secure your wireless networks in much the same manner. And also, if needed, I strongly recommend you create a second and third wireless network. The first one is for business. The second one could be for the employees. The third one could be for guests. Of course, having a separate network increases security. Because we know the employees would like to go to Facebook once in a while. They want to check their email once in a while. Heaven forbid they go to a site they shouldn't. It would not affect the business network if they were on the employee network. Instead of passwords, use something I call passphrases. A passphrase is similar to a password, but it's a phrase. A phrase could be, I really like baseball, or the blue sky is very pretty. This way it's has many more characters. And I got to tell you something, when you get around the 15, 14, 20 character spot, believe me, even the password generators will take a long time to find that password. Here's something very important we touched on earlier. Employee training. We want to teach our employees how to spot phishing attempts, for example. Here's recently, unfortunately, here in Columbus, the Columbus Library System fell to a phishing attack in which the executive secretary thought she was talking to her boss, the director, and she wasn't. during this email exchange. Now, it looked like it, but it wasn't the boss's real email. And in that phishing attempt, it asked the executive secretary to send an Excel spreadsheet full of the W-2 information for all the employees. And unfortunately, she did. But there are ways to learn how to spot phishing. And I think having a professional come in to train the employees is a very good idea. Be careful not to download files and music, especially from a sender that's unknown. Be careful not to give out personal or business information. Let me give you a trick. Have you ever opened up a new account, whatever it is, and they'll ask you, what username do you want? And you type it in. What password do you want? And hopefully it's a passphrase. Then they'll ask you these, what they call security questions. A lot of them are personal. Where did you grow up? Who was your first girlfriend? That stuff is personal. What's your mother's maiden name? Be very careful what you answer there, because basically you're just giving away personal information. Remember that cybersecurity is a journey and not a destination. You always need to be aware. You always need to be on the defense. You need to have updates. You need to be aware. New employees need to be trained. Stay up to date, because this act requires you to reasonably conform to the latest version of a chosen framework. Now, if you do these things with the framework, what are the benefits? Well, as a business owner, I believe you'll get peace of mind knowing that you've addressed the risk. Also, you've just now created an affirmative defense in case your business is taken to court. This is a defense in which your attorney can protect you, so long as you have documentation and you've proved that you provided a reasonable defense and can document such. As I said earlier, don't confuse this with the term safe harbor. Safe harbor is a legal term. This is not a get out of jail free card. You still have to prove that you've reasonably conformed to the standard, that you've reasonably done your work and strengthened your cyber defenses. You know what, as a business owner, you've done this with a minor investment in time and money. Yes, there is an investment, but it really isn't as much as you think. And it's a win-win for you, your customers, and your employees. So let me recap. In order to obtain the affirmative defense, and in order to strengthen your cyber defenses, choose an industry standard cybersecurity program. From this webinar, we use the NIST 800-171 standard because it was based upon the size, complexity, scope, and resources of the business. Work the plan. Much of the plan can be done without tech gurus. Use experts on those tasks that require such expertise. Provide training to your employees. And as I said earlier, follow up and maintain your plan. Now, by doing that, let's assume for a second that you implemented the NIST standards in December of 2016. Well, in November of 2017, they updated the standards. Once they've updated the standards, you, if you've chosen that standard, have 1 year to comply to that standard. This way you'll reasonably conform to that standard. So those who haven't complied to it have about a month to go, since right now you're listening to this webinar in October. All right. I want to thank everyone for attending our webinar today. If there's any questions or comments, I can be reached at the email address right there. I also want to thank Franklin University and the Center for Public Safety and Cybersecurity Education for this opportunity to present to you the Data Protection Act, Senate Bill 220. I want to thank everybody for attending and have a great rest of the day.